Oh, you know what? I had my phone yesterday propped up so I could see if messages came in. That was quite helpful. There we go. So yeah, they are still fighting against these Australasian submarines, but clearly they've started protecting this. Question is, who? Siam, possibly. They've put some destroyers out. They're on escort convoy in the Straits of Malacca. I doubt that China's got anything. No. Siam, we just checked. Japan. No. No, those are just moving. They're still not doing escorts. Muscat's capitulated. Oh, Russia! Big push! Oh yeah, this is actually a continuation from last time. We'd seen that previously. So not so much big push as more of the same. Because they were pushing out of Persia and into the state of Mashriq. Mashriq's back again! Austrian heavy tanks pushing through. See, this is what happens when you send your heavy tanks to, I don't know, not Belgium. Have I seen the Romania rework for Kaiserreich yet? No, I haven't, Buchan. Haven't had time. I was streaming this until 1 AM last night, and again all day today, and we're not using the update. So, nice move by Austria. Again, Austria's... I've liked Austria. They've done a really good job. Who is Austria? Let's give kudos to the player. Austria is Freddy. Well done, Freddy. Very, very nice move. And obviously capable of doing many different theatres at the same time, which is an important trait. So what's Germany been up to this whole time? Is Germany just lend-leasing equipment to the other players? No, they're being supported by Austria, who is sending them... Oh, just one gun. Bloody exploits. Supporting Sweden. So they are sending lots of fighters to Sweden. Lots and lots of fighters to Sweden. I'm a little bit surprised that we've not seen heavier German units moving around. Unless they're trying to keep them in reserve for something. But I haven't seen any. Like Austria's managed infantry units and then also their tank divisions for the pushes and also the Navy. The only thing they haven't done much of is Air Force. However, I am curious to see if they are also lend-leasing. They're lend-leasing to Germany, to Sweden. Just guns though. And Bulgaria is sending them loads of heavy tanks. Crikey. And AA. So Bulgaria is the one who's supporting Austria's efforts. Interesting. And Bulgaria is lend-leasing everybody. Heavy tanks to Austria. Exploits to Germany. Exploits to Sweden. And exploits to the Ukraine. And I'm going to call that now. I'm going to call that lend-leasing exploits. Meanwhile, Sweden is receiving exploits from Austria. They are gaining guns from Germany. In fact, we've already seen that because they're the fifth player. Germany's just chilling, meanwhile. I mean, yeah, they kind of are. I mean, they do have a lot of troops. Let's actually take a look at this. So they are on extensive conscription. Human wave offensive. They've got... Really? Interesting. And... Army, 5.2 million. In the field, 4.6 million. So yeah, Germany's just got some absolutely enormous infantry stacks, which is what they're using to defend so effectively against France. And in fact, I'm getting a little bit nervous about France here, because they are not exactly defending their front line with a lot of units. I mean, there's a couple of places which have a lot, and then a couple of places which have barely any. Interesting. Alright, let's do the same thing from the Third International's perspective. What's the Lend-leases and who are they giving what to? So, Ireland is supporting France with fuel. Japan isn't sending anything, and Siam is sending them fuel, but they're blockaded, so nothing's getting through. And is France still having issues with trade? Yes. They're half of their chromium short. Partially because they physically can't import from these guys because they're all at war with them, and partially because the blockade against Russia. Although the blockade's gotten better, so they're not losing quite as many as they once were. Britain, meanwhile, is lend-leasing convoys. No. Italy is lend-leasing convoys to the Union of Britain. Which is probably a good thing, because good grief, they're losing a lot. Where on earth are you losing those convoys, Britain? Because up until now, you've been doing actually a remarkably good job of protecting yourself. That's you attacking Argentina. That's not where you've been losing them. Your convoy raiding efficiency is low, but your convoy protection is good. You've blocked off Cape of South Africa, which is where the German submarines were catching you. Nope, don't know. I think you just have a lot less convoys than I think you probably should have. Meanwhile, we have a Socialist Republic of Italy invasion of Venice, trying to cut in behind these guys and probably trying to get a cutoff to trap out this entire army. But I don't think they're going to be attacking with quite enough troops. It is supported by the Italian Navy, which is basically dead. I would quite like to see Sweden putting naval bombers. This is the point when you put in naval bombers. And also the Austrian submarines, which are already here. Oh, if only Austria was upgrading their subs. If only. CoPro really need to put some kind of pressure on Germany. Yes, because they are demolishing Third International in terms of attrition. Oh, nope, now they're struggling. But where? No, it's just in the Mediterranean, I think. 28,000 friendly superiority in the western approaches. That's a few. Or is it just that you're using a lot of convoys and you don't have enough ships protecting? I mean, you only have 16, 20 ships doing convoy protection. Yeah, you've had to turn a lot of them off, probably because of fuel situations. Okay. Anyway, we were looking at the Lend-leases of Third International before I got distracted by the fact that they were having to import convoys from Italy. Ireland. Ireland I was expecting to be the industrial heartland of these guys. They have far fewer factories than I expected. They haven't taken any of the industry? Ireland, what are you doing? It's like the one reason to play as Ireland. You have one job. Build factories. Oh, speaking of factories, it was pointed out to me yesterday that somebody has been making a very big whoopsie. If you will take a look at the top of the screen here and note the number of factories that the SRI currently has. 51. Spain is 80. France is 300. Germany is 400. Austria has 190. Bulgaria has 190. Even Nationalist France is 78. We've got another Canada. Except I think they have actually been building factories. It's just that there are a bunch of economic policy buttons here. And the The admins told me yesterday that they haven't pressed any of these, and this is where Italy is supposed to get most of their industry back. And yeah, they've not done any of this. They have 1,281 political power. They could be getting free synthetic refineries. They could be getting free fuel refineries. They could be getting free military factories. And these are literally free. There's not even a political power cost for them. They've just not done it. So SRI's industrial ability is incredibly low. It's like he doesn't know that decisions exist. Which is, it's a bit of a whoopsie. It's definitely a bit of a whoopsie. Anyway, we were looking at Lend-leases, so I'm going to go back to doing that, clicking on you. So, Ireland, that's where we were up to. Ireland is sending guns to CNTFAI, and also fuel. Lots and lots and lots and lots. 1.5 million fuel delivered to France. And you are building synthetics. Do you have a lot of them? Seen this from the wrong perspective. Okay, so your industry slots are currently full. Probably because you haven't invested in your industrial slots. So, yeah, that was actually SRI that was building refineries, not Ireland. Okay, CNTFAI, what have you been up to? You are currently getting expeditionaries from... Oh no, you're giving them to Ireland, and you're giving them to Italy, so I'm guessing you're letting the other players micro some of your units. You've got 2,000 guns from Ireland, and 400 from Italy. How is the situation in India? Unchanged. And it looks like Russia is clearing up Arabia right now, which is going to be a severe threat to Bulgaria. Meanwhile, Canada is more or less cleaned up down here. We've still got a bunch of units cut off, but that's a pretty hefty Ukrainian and Canadian force to block them and kill them. What? Italy going into war without a functional wartime industry? Ha! That's never happened before. SRI knew that they were OP, they just wanted to tie a hand behind their back to even things out. I mean, having seen how they handled things against Sicily, I think they should probably untie that hand pronto. Alright, so who are we going to look at next? That's all of those. We saw SRI. Oh! They've been cut off again! No, France! No! No! So Germany has finally unleashed the dogs of war. They do have a connection through here. These are two French heavy tanks currently being attacked heavily by the German masses. We do have an Austrian heavy here trying to punch through this last remaining position. It would be helpful if Germany was supporting that, because this would be a big blow. They do still have the port of Dunkirk, or whatever's the one next to Dunkirk, so they could technically escape. But I'm wondering if France has not noticed this. Because... oh no, they are cut off. My bad, I thought that this was a connection. No, they are cut off. They have to escape from the port. And because England has actually been really good at protecting trade in this area, they should be able to get them out. But that's if they notice. Because if they don't manually click on the port, then they won't leave. So that heavy seems pretty content to just stay there. It keeps on being attacked though. The German units keep on attacking here. Okay, the tanks are withdrawing. They've lost Lille. They're attacking out of Lille. Oh, probably to pin these guys to stop them taking, but yep, they're pinning them. He's moving. And They managed to defend that. Oh, did one die? Did a tank die? Because I'm only seeing this one now. No, I just saw a boat leave. Alright, let's take a look at this from France's perspective. We have got Nationalist Chile sending convoys out here. We've got the French Navy out in the English Channel protecting the exodus of the tanks, although they have made the connection. Tanks have come back, retaken Dunkirk, and it's actually the Austrians forced to withdraw. So, a last minute save there. But I don't know if they lost a heavy there. I don't know what happened to that one. I have not seen where that transport went. Japan is removed from the Legation Council. Oh dear. Right, pouring myself some more tea. Stuff's going on. And I'm looking at the middle of the ocean right now. Okay, so looks like the attacks there have died down somewhat. We haven't looked out in Indonesia for a while. We do have a Filipino attack on Port Moresby, so let's go and switch over to the Australasian perspective. It looks like that militia unit is going to hold out. These two are looking increasingly weakened. We do have some Marines here. I don't know if they're joining this attack. Yes, the Marines attacking, being supported by the two militia forces, or whatever these two are. They are continuing the assault, but it doesn't look like they're going to be successful. I don't think they've been supported by a fleet. Let's just flip over to their perspective. They don't have any bombardments. They have this one Japanese submarine acting as a bit of a scout, just to take a look. But so far, no support. Ooh, that's a big fleet there. Oh, hello, Japan. So the Japanese High Seas Fleet has arrived to take on these two Australasian submarines. So they are now getting some naval support, and because the naval support has suddenly arrived, the chances of this naval invasion have dramatically increased. So it looks like they're going to be going after Papua. Sardinia was just invaded. Sardinia was just invaded and also annihilated. So SRI has managed to do another successful naval invasion there. Although the attacks into... no, I think they have actually managed to stymie that. And the battle for Belgium continues. But I think I'm more interested in what's going on over here, because this seems like a fairly significant outlay of forces, and is particularly a fairly significant use of the Japanese Navy. Is Japan able to maintain the fuel needed for the... Nope. No, they are not. This is another reason not to doomstack, because it is incredibly expensive in terms of fuel usage. However, Japan is actually doing some escorts with the doomstack. Okay. That's one way of doing it, I guess. We do have Siamese destroyers protecting the Siamese transports from the Australasian submarines. They have a 100% screening efficiency, so nothing is going to be affected. Then we also have the entire Japanese fleet without fuel, currently trying to take down two submarines. They have a very poor screening efficiency, so this submarine might be able to get a few shots off against some of the capital ships, and they have a lot of capital ships in this stack. 49 of them. That's a lot of capital ships, crikey. And that's also going to be incredibly expensive for fuel. But so far, seemingly successful. It doesn't look like the attack on Port Moresby is really being successful, though. And it also looks like... Why can't I click on Austria? Australia. Port Moresby has actually brought in another unit of infantry, but because they just arrived by the sea, they arrive with zero organisation. This is the problem with arriving during a battle in a port, or if you take a battle and you get attacked by the adjacent, you can never land troops in that port because they just arrive with zero organisation. So even though Australasia is sending in reinforcements to try and bolster Port Moresby, they're not really able to do a huge amount with them. Meanwhile, we have the Japanese, a smaller fraction of the Japanese Navy this time, fighting against Australasian subs. Has he split them down? No, that's that fleet. No, it's not. Okay, I don't know why that's just such a small fraction of their fleet arriving. Not sure. Oh, possibly because they're fighting in multiple naval actions. So this is the problem with just sitting on recon. Is if one fraction of your fleet gets caught and another fraction of your fleet gets caught, it's effectively divided and you have no control over how big they are. Yeah, so now these guys are sailing in to support. Tunis naval invasion's been recalled or destroyed. Okay, I'll take a look. Yes, I can now show tank templates. I couldn't yesterday, but I can today. We'll have a look in a moment. India's a stalemate. If the Reichspakt kills the International, both Copro and Entente are screwed. Even if Copro takes all of Asia, they're going to have less points than Reichspakt controlling all of Europe. That's why I lost last week's game. Not enough points in Asia if you don't take the important stuff in Europe. That's true. And it was really the Third International's defense of Venice and... not Venice, Vienna and Berlin, which stymied Copro last week. It all hung around taking Berlin, and you couldn't do it. That's what made that game really exciting, though, was the huge fights for Berlin. The massive tank armies being thrown into the fray. Alright, let's go and take a look at the tank divisions. So we'll take a look at the French ones first. So the French tank divisions are... these? Yes. So they have got 20 combat width worth of heavy tanks. They have mechanized instead of motorized, 2 anti-air, and in fact another heavy tank as well. With a soft attack of 554, hard attack of 800, defense of 645, and breakthrough of 1000, and a movement speed of 5.6 kilometers per hour. Organization of 30, which is actually pretty good for a heavy tank division. These are pretty decent. Armor of 113, that's going to be very difficult to kill, and then a piercing of 110 against enemy heavy tank divisions. And then the Austrians, which are the ones that they are fighting against, we have... these. Here we go. Another 20... okay, so they've gone actually even higher on the heavy tanks and less on the mechanized. So their organization is lower at 25. That's not correct. That's correct. Yeah, so their organization is just 25 there. Soft attack is much heavier with 794. Hard attack is 1090. Defense of 641. So their defense is a lot lower. So if they do manage to take territory, then their opponent is going to... have an easier time pushing the back. And we've seen that happen a few times. Armor is 117, piercing is 131. So they are indeed able to pierce the French tanks, but the French tanks with an armor of 117 cannot pierce them. I'm a little bit surprised they've gone for heavy AA. I would have thought that heavy SPG would be better because they do have air superiority. But maybe that's just in case they don't have it at any particular point or during a critically important moment. And again, the mighty Ukrainian Air Force has landed in France. They're trying to take Brest at the moment to secure themselves a port from which to launch an attack against the French from behind. They have their paratroopers marching out to try and secure as much territory as possible. They've had 2 paratroopers which landed, unfortunately, on top of garrisons in Lorient and whatever this is next to it. There are a lot of ports in this area and a lot of potential supply for additional reinforcements, but it looks like France might be able to nip this one in the bud, potentially without even having noticed, because of the rather tenacious defense offered by the C&T FAI. It looks like there is a lot of air cover coming in. Let's just take a quick look at Sweden so we can see the air power, because I want to know how that's going. They have got 3,900 aircraft in place versus the 2,400. Obviously, the International is aware of this having come in. They have the French tanks, have now arrived, rolling in, fighting against the powers, and I think that this is going to be a failed operation. But I'm liking the creativity here. Ukraine has woken up, and I'm very happy to see that. I think Ukraine really is starting to breathe a little lighter with the fact that Russia hasn't come after them yet, and because of this, they feel like they can make some more interesting moves and just get a bit more creative in exactly what they're doing in general. If destroyers are good for convoy escort, or light cruisers good for convoy raiding? The way that I see light cruisers is they're best. It's basically a better version of the destroyer. So everything that destroyers can do, light cruisers can just do better. The only exception there is recon, which light cruisers are just better. So if you want a heavy destroyer unit, use a light cruiser. They can do everything that destroyers can, but they are like 4 times more expensive. 3 times. They're more expensive. 3 or 4 times more. So the one area where I'd say that light cruisers are not as good is screening large fleets. So if you have a lot of capital ships, you're going to want destroyers, just because it doesn't matter how good the screen is, so long as you've got 3 to 4 screens per capital ship, you're fine. If you have 3 light cruisers versus 3 destroyers, then... Sorry, I'm just seeing if anything was happening because of the disconnect. What was I saying? 3 light cruisers will obviously function better than the destroyers, but if you just need a lot of coverage to cover a large screen, then destroyers are better. But if you want to do like convoy raiding, then yes, light cruisers are better at it than destroyers. But again, they are more expensive. How hefty are the Ukrainian powers? They are 20 combat width. They're quite good, with AA and engineer support. Frontline's doing well in Calais. You are not wrong. They have now managed to completely retake the whole of Belgium. They've pushed into Calais, and they are now at the river here, just outside of Amiens, which is like the second line of defense before Paris. So the Reichspakt is definitely starting to make a couple of incursions, and there is a disaster going on in Italy right now. We have Italy cut entirely in half at the moment. This was probably a distraction event in order to screen the efforts of the Austrians and the Germans and the Ukrainians and everybody else that's over here. Let's go and switch over to that right now so we can see what is going on. We have got Austrian heavy tanks punching through, trying to take some of the lands around Piedmont, which is why I think we're waiting for Austria, because they're kind of integral to what's going on here at the moment. We have Austrian tanks in the south beelining for Rome. We've got openings here around Terni. This is actually really unfortunate for the Reichspakt, because this is a pause moment which is allowing the International to get a response together and start giving some orders. So it's really unfortunate actually that this is paused at the moment, because this kind of momentum you don't want to lose. You really don't want to lose this kind of momentum. Hey Marshall. I'm just going to double check to see if I'm getting any messages. No.